my whole life now revolves around what I've achieved on the court. But then if I could do it again, I wouldn't ever want to pick up a racket.
He's one of the greatest players in the world.
Winner of 7 tour singles title.
Nick Kyrgios.
I literally wanted to end my life. And now I'm just here and enjoying it. So everything's just, it's all a bonus.
Before we jump into this episode, I'd like to invite you to join this community to hear more interviews that will help you become happier, healthier, and more healed. All I want you to do is click on the subscribe button. I love your support. It's incredible to see all your comments, and we're just getting started. I can't wait to go on this journey with you. Thank you so much for subscribing. It means the world to me.
The best-selling author and host.
The #1 health and wellness podcast.
On Purpose with Jay Shetty.
Externally, you've had what looks like a love-hate relationship with tennis.
Yep.
And at this point, you're injured. You've been away from the game.
Yep.
I'm intrigued to understand, how has your relationship with the game changed when you haven't been able to play it?
This is a tough one for me because when I step away from the sport for so long, I actually don't miss it. So that's scary for me. You know, most athletes, when they get pulled away from their sport, injury or take time off, they're like really hungry to get back. With me, it's like, I've always kind of known that life has so many cool things about it, you know. And tennis, when we're traveling 7-8 months a year, I barely see my family, my friends. And during this time, it's like I get to spend time with my partner more, my family, do all these things that I've been missing out on. It's like, wow, my life's amazing now. But, you know, I do miss playing tennis a bit. You know, it's all I've ever known since I was 7 years old. You know, my family loves it. You know, all my friends, you know me as Nick Kyrgios tennis player. So I do miss it a little bit, but at the same time, I've really enjoyed the time off.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. It's good for the honesty, I think. You know, like people forget that we're human and we need a break sometimes. What's your earliest childhood memory that you think has defined who you are today?
Well, I hated tennis when I was young. So, you know, I was very chubby, overweight as a kid, and my mum she was like, okay, we got to get you doing some sport or be active. So she dragged me down to the local tennis courts, and I remember I was crying all day, hated it, didn't want to be there. Anyway, I gave it a chance for like, you know, a couple of weeks, couple of months, and the coach was like, oh, he's picking it up pretty quickly. And then that was a defining moment, because ever since that coach said that, it's like my father and my mum put everything into tennis. You know, they sacrificed. You know, my dad and my mum had nothing growing up, and I guess they kind of saw me as the person in the family to eventually, you know, try and make it and help them out and help the family out. So, look, tennis was such a interesting journey. You know, I never thought, I was 17, 18, still in school, and people were telling me you could really do something. And I never took myself seriously enough to one day be on the tour beating people like Djokovic, Nadal, Federer. It was just never in my mind. And then all of a sudden it just happened and my life changed. It's like I have big imposter syndrome. Like I'm sitting here, I watch you in my bed in my house in Canberra. I'm watching you, and then now all of a sudden I'm here having a conversation. Like that's just, for me, it's crazy.
Well, dude, I feel the same with you. I'm watching you play all the major tournaments and watching you on Breakpoint, and I still have to pinch myself that I get to do this. So the feeling is very mutual, and I want you to know that too. Like, and you know, a big part of that for me watching you is, I think, and I chose not to introduce you this way, but I think a lot of people would introduce you as the bad boy of tennis. How does that title make you feel today?
Yeah, it's been hard. That's one thing the media's done. They've branded me as, you know, I don't know, like I'm crazy, I'm a bad boy, but my family and my closest people know that I'm quite generous, I'm quite caring, I'm intellectually switched on, I like having deep conversations, and I try my best to make other people feel comfortable. Like I know what it's like to be overweight, insecure. Like I love when I see kids that are a bit like, I guess, myself at a younger age. I love that. I go up to them, I make them feel, look, if I can do it, you can do it. So that's been one of the hardest things in my career, is like everyone I meet thinks that I'm just a bad person, I've got crazy temper, but then off the court, it's like a complete opposite person. And it's been really, really hard to shake that. And it's taken years. Like only now I feel like people kind of understand how I am on the court and how I am off the court. But it's been hard.
How early did that title set in? Like that idea of Nick Kyrgios meltdown again, Nick Kyrgios breaks a racket, like whatever. Like how early did that set in, and how did that impact it?
Probably the first couple of years I was on tour, and that was almost 11 years ago. And it's been an uphill battle ever since. You know, everyone thinks that I'm that type of person, but it's like I've gone through my whole life trying to prove to people that that's not me. And it's been really hard. Like all the media backlash, the negativity, all the negativity on my family, my partner, like it hasn't been so easy to navigate. But I think getting older and growing through it and getting thick skin, I've kind of given up trying to, make everyone understand who I am, because it's exhausting and I don't think it's possible. Everyone's going to have their opinions, but it's taken a toll. Like I'm definitely a bit tired of being branded that. And it's sad in a way because people only really want to get to meet that side of me, which is not how I actually am as a person.
How much of it early on was self-inflicted versus was that just you trying to deal with the pressure and the stress? Like, why did that? I've met you just now.
Yep.
You're smiling, you're easy to be around,
Yep.
you're chill, you're cool. When we were messaging, I was telling my team, I was like, this guy seems like one of the nicest guys.
Yep.
Like everything you just said.
Yep.
But then when someone watches you on the court or watches you in a press interview, you could be intimidating. How much of that became a persona you felt you ended up playing versus where did it actually start? Was it that you were stressed and there was pressure, or?
Well, I guess, yeah, when I'm on court, I turn into a different person. Like I love competing and it's like, I hate losing. And I guess even when I was a younger kind of kid on the court, I always carried my emotions. I would cry on court, I would scream, I'd love to compete and hate to lose. And I guess I never changed. Like whether it's me now, I don't cry on court now, but I still am very emotional and it just shows how much I care. I feel like it was a way for me to outlet the pressure, get angry or smash a racket. But the thing is, tennis can go for 4 or 5 hours. A match can go for 4 or 5 hours. And then for that small snippet of time, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, I'm losing my mind. And that's all they're showing. Like if you just show 30 minutes of a 4-hour match, then everyone's going to assume, oh, that's how he's carrying on for 4 hours. Like the majority of the time I'm well-behaved, great competitor, respecting my opponent. And then I turn on, say the TV, it's just me smashing the racket. And I'm like, I can't control that. And it's been hard. Like most of the time I am how I am now, but it's been a tough one.
Yeah. You were saying, I've watched how you talked about how it's impacted you, it's impacted how people communicate with your girlfriend,
Yep.
like the kind of backlash that you receive.
Yep.
What has been the darkest, hardest period of dealing with that, whether it may be a media narrative or fans reaching out, whatever it may be?
Yeah, in 2019 I've opened up about some of the darkest periods of my life, and it was so accessible, all these negative comments. You go on your phone now, you open up social media, Instagram, Twitter, all this, and I just see millions of messages that were negative about my family, like just things that I feel like I didn't ever really listen to, but they just went into the back of my mind and subconsciously they're just there. And then when things start happening, you're like, maybe they're right. You start doubting yourself. And I feel like that's what I fell into. It was like, oh, maybe they are right. And then I started feeling really negatively about myself and I started all these bad habits happening. And it was impossible for me to deal with. I was 19 at the time when this all started happening and I wasn't prepared for such a hard time. Like I was just enjoying myself. I had normal friends. And then I went from being in school to now being on the global stage in the spotlight. And it was just impossible for me to deal with. I never really dealt with it in a healthy way at all.
Yeah, you talked about in Breakpoint about drugs, alcohol, isolating yourself.
Yep.
You talk about even considering attempting suicide.
Yep.
And then we hear that you locked into a psych ward, but we don't really realize what you went through. Like, walk us through what it felt like to be Nick Kyrgios in 2019.
Yeah, it's just I think about those times and I don't necessarily feel sad about them or happy about them. It's just that part of my life is over and it's just a mess. Like I think about that time, I just was not thinking clearly. I was drinking every night, just at the time I thought it was just fun, but it wasn't fun. It was just self-inflicted pain and I had friends around me telling me it wasn't healthy and I ignored them. And then I found myself going to a psychiatric ward in London and I had to play Nadal the next day. And these are the things like, everyone would assume that I was doing fine. I was answering questions and they told me that I should stay in this psychiatric ward for 2 weeks and be reassessed. And I was playing Nadal the next day. It's like, I looked at myself, I was like, I can't do this. I have to somehow change these habits. So, and I had self-harm everywhere. I had to wear an arm sleeve on center court of Wimbledon and no one knew any of these problems. And it was hard. And I look back and I just don't know how I got out of it, to be honest. I was such a mess. And the worst thing was the media, I was having decent results during that time and the media was like, okay, is this a new Nick Kyrgios? Is this the Nick Kyrgios? And I was like, this was the darkest period of my life. There was a tournament in Mexico, Acapulco, where I was thinking about, I was having suicidal thoughts, and, you know, I was just on the balcony of my hotel and I was genuinely thinking about it. And my team was like, all right, we got to play in 10 minutes. Ended up going out on court, played amazing, won the tournament. And everyone globally was thinking, wow, is this the person that we've all been waiting for, when I was really on the brink of everything? And that's so scary because no one else knew what was going on. It was really hard.
I mean, that paradox of feeling that way and then having to play the biggest games and then even winning some of them, but then feeling that way when you're off court again. That sounds like one of the most difficult, like just listening to you right now, I'm listening to that going, I was just putting myself in that position thinking you're standing there at the balcony. Like, I can't imagine what's going through your mind. How did you break through that? Like, how was that not the end? Because I feel there's so many people listening right now who might be feeling like you were then. And I want you to talk to them. I want them to hear you right now, because I want this to be the message that they say, that got me through it.
Just everyone, I felt like I was very selfish at that time. I was always giving into my feelings, which they were probably valid, but I felt like I was playing just based on how I felt. And then I looked back at millions of fans that I have, and that I, you know, for instance, there was a Make-A-Wish kid that I met up with a week and a half ago. He's probably got 6 months to live. And then I realized that those types of people that look up to me and really want me to succeed, that's who I started playing for. So family, these like kids, the future generation, that's the reason why I probably would have retired and probably stopped playing, you know, a couple of years ago if I just kept playing on how I was feeling. But then I realized I've got a whole contingent of fans worldwide that want to see me succeed. So that's why I love playing now. Like, I play for them, but that's what got me out of it. I started feeling like I've got a lot more to give. Not for me. Like, I've already proved to myself that I can play tennis, but for all those people out there, like, if I can do it, like, you look at Djokovic, Federer, and Nadal, like, these people are gods in my eyes. Like, they're super professional. Djokovic takes care of his diet daily. I was not doing any of these things and still getting to that level. So I think if just the inspiration for other people got me out of that. But it was really those times and there are definitely times now where I think about those moments and I still get a bit emotional on it. Like, Breakpoint obviously showed interviews with my sister and my father and my best friend, and they break down into tears, and that just shows how emotional that time was, because they could just see me spiraling out of control. And I didn't think it was okay to just step back and not play. I kept thinking I had to force myself to get out there. Yeah, it definitely was traumatizing.
How much did it mean to you that they stood by you?
Yeah, I mean, I probably owe them my life, to be honest. You know, they were standing by me through reckless behavior. And that's what I mean. Like, people now, I go on social media and they're like, oh, you're a waste of talent, or why are you not playing, or why are you not doing this? And everything I'm doing now is just a bonus. Like, being here speaking to Jay Shetty, for me, it's just, it's like all a bonus. Like, every day, I just don't think about the past. I don't think about the future. I just live every day by day. And everything I'm doing now is just a bonus. Like, because I was so depressed and so sad. And like, I literally wanted to end my life. And now I'm just here and enjoying it. So everything's it's all a bonus. Yeah,
that's a beautiful way to live.
Yeah, it is.
To know that, it's a beautiful mindset to live in.
I just stay on my feet. I don't think about the past, I'm not a big planner anymore, because I just don't know. Anything can be taken away just like that.
Yeah. I mean, I think listening to you, it's so interesting, right? When we have views on athletes especially, where we're like, oh, you could have been this and you could have been the next greatest and you could have been whatever it may be. And the challenge is you have no idea what that person's going through. You have no idea what's worrying that person. And I think everyone almost projects their own insecurities onto everyone else, where we also feel like we have so much potential that never got seen, that never got untapped. And to almost live in the way you're living now, which is like, I'm already living in bonus land.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like that in so many ways in my life, where I am able to do things today that I couldn't even have imagined as a kid. And we have a lot in common growing up, because and I heard you say this and I felt the same way. I was a short, brown, fat kid growing up at school.
Yep.
And so when you talked about that in Breakpoint, I felt exactly the same way, where I was bullied for it. I was beaten up for it. I was criticized for it. And when I look at my life today, I'm like, I get to do things that I didn't ever think were possible.
Yep.
So I'm already living in bonus world.
And you're so grateful for it.
So grateful for it.
Yep.
So grateful for it beyond. And whether I reach the potential, what people think I should do, or whether I don't, I'm already living in that gratitude.
Yep.
With you, when you're playing at the top level and there is that feeling, so when you find out you're going to make it, you've made it through to the final of Wimbledon.
Yep.
Walk me through what the feeling is when you know, like, I've made it through to the final of Wimbledon, like,
Yep.
which is the biggest stage, the biggest moment. You've made it through. What does that feel like?
I was laughing inside. Like I had Novak Djokovic behind me, the royal family watching me play, and there's like guards there, and I'm just like thinking to myself, I don't, this shouldn't be me. Like the way that everything had panned out, it was like, I just thought it was all a joke. I was like, this is incredible. How am I here in this moment in time? And yeah, I was walking out to the court, and I just, yeah, like it's like every single thing that I'd gone through, training, family sacrifice, that's the one time in my life where everything made sense. Everything made sense. Every gym session, conditioning session, every good meal I decided to eat was all equal to that moment in time. And it's like I didn't sleep the night before. And then as soon as I stepped on court, all those feelings went away. It was like, okay, I'm home. And then I lost the match, but I played incredible. It was a great final. But I just remember seeing the doors open real slowly, and I saw every blade of grass the same length. And I just walked out there, and it was just like home. And then that was it. I'm not disappointed that I lost the match. Obviously, I would love to have a Wimbledon crown, but it was all a bonus. Like the fact that I was just walking out, Novak's behind me, the royal family's there, like Nick Kyrgios making it that far, ridiculous.
When I hear you speak like almost like real, it's almost like that childlike feeling.
Yeah.
Of like you're still living in that childlike moment or
Yep.
childlike feeling of what that would have felt like. Whereas sometimes we grow up too soon.
Yep.
And we almost can't experience it that way. Like when you just said you saw every blade of grass being the same.
Yep.
Like even that mindfulness, like watching the doors, the
Yep.
fact that you can visualize it,
Yep.
it means you were so present. What goes through your mind during the game when it's not going your way? Like what happens when you start losing a point, or when you know you could have made something you didn't? Like what's going through your mind at that time?
Just competing, like just trying to get the best out of myself. Like I guess people when they watch me play, like, why do you get so angry? It's like there's millions of dollars on the line, so many hours of work put in, and I'm just trying to like do the best I can in that moment of time. Like people when they see me, I guess, getting angry or doing whatever, they're like, oh, he doesn't care. It's like, I think I care too much at times on the result. And coaches always tell me, like, don't care about the result too much. But in my life, in my experience, if you don't win at the end of the day, like, I wouldn't be here. If I didn't win majority of tennis matches, I wouldn't be sitting here. So I know the importance of winning. But at the same time, I guess I'm just so involved in every little bit of effort's been, I know my family's effort, my support crew. I want everyone in my team to feel that I care the most, and I want success for all of us. I don't care about just me. Like my physio's there, my partner's there, my best friend, my agent. Like we're all contingent, and that's why I guess I love the team environment a little bit more.
Yeah.
But tennis is, people just think, oh, you're on your own out there, but it's like there's so much more than just me. Like everyone's put so much work in to get here.
So your anger is actually your care.
Exactly. I wanted to win Wimbledon, so then like my whole team like can share that with me. I don't really care. Like I actually don't really care. And I wanted to win Wimbledon so I could just shut everyone up and so I could be just left alone. So if I'm at home and I'm actually having a beer or I'm just chilling, people will just, oh, what are you doing? I'm like, I won Wimbledon. Like you can't tell me anything. You're immortal in that tennis world, you know?
Yeah.
Like I made the final and people still criticize me. I feel like if I'd won that, maybe it would stop.
So you feel like when you're playing,
Yep.
you're trying to win because you feel so many people have invested in you.
Yep.
And so many people believe in you,
Yep.
the people that you care about.
Yeah.
And that you almost want to win for them.
Yes. And to shut everyone else up as well. That would be nice.
I'm excited to see you go on and win a few. Like I think you have the potential and the ability and, you know, the mindset to go and do it. But when you go and win, you know as well as I do that still won't shut people up.
I know that.
You know that.
It's just false hope, I guess.
What is that false hope? Walk me through that, because I think that's real. I think we all feel, right? This is the hypothesis. We all feel that there's something we can do that will finally convince people of who we are. And we're all waiting in our own way to do that thing. For you, it may be a game of tennis.
Yep.
For someone else, it might be a promotion. For someone, it will be graduating with a particular degree.
Yep.
For me, it will be interviewing someone, whatever. Like we all have that thing where we think, when I do this, then people will say I made it.
Yeah.
Why is that?
I don't know. I feel like if people really understood my journey, then they wouldn't be so pushy, I think. And like if I just sat down with all my haters and we had like a nice meal together and I gave them my side of the story, I think they'd have a better understanding and they wouldn't be so like, they wouldn't criticize or be so like aggressive towards me on social media or just in general. So I feel like maybe if I do win Wimbledon and like I was so close and I don't even really love the sport. Like I'm only doing this because I love taking care of my family, my people, and I want to do this so I can prove that no matter how much more of an underdog you are, you can achieve something like winning Wimbledon. Like I never thought in my mind that I would be capable of doing that. And look, maybe you are right. I know that even if I did that, people are going to be like, all right, now do it again. And it's just like, I guess that's the rat race of life. You know, how much is enough? And I feel like I'm very content with my life now. I have more than enough to enjoy. And so if it was up to me, I probably wouldn't. I don't really want to play anymore, to be honest. But I have to almost. I've got so much more to give. But for me, I don't feel like playing anymore.
And that's not your way of taking the pressure off.
No, it's not.
No.
I'm exhausted. I'm tired, and you know I have had 3 surgeries now. That I'm only 28 years old. I always wanted to be able to have a family and not be in pain. When I get up, I can't walk without pain. So it's a tough gig. It's tough.
I appreciate the realness because it's that, you know, there's a couple of things that come to mind. The first thing that comes to mind for me is always, I'm a Cristiano Ronaldo fan through and through. Like, if anyone asks me CR7 or Messi, I'm CR7 all the way. He's the example for me of you can achieve everything and there'll still be 50% of people
who think that someone else is better.
Yeah, someone else is better. And not even just better, they think you're not even in the conversation. Like there's a 50% of people who will be like, well, CR7 doesn't even make it into the top 2 conversation.
Yeah.
And it's bizarre that you can even feel that way. And so that I look at it through that perspective where I'm like, this guy's won everything. He's inspired pretty much every next generation of football players in the world. Yet there are people who have an issue with him. And blows my mind. And then at the same time, what you're talking about, the reality, I appreciate you saying I'm exhausted. It's hard. You know, I remember a interview that Vanessa Bryant did, Kobe Bryant's wife, and she talked about how the only thing that got Kobe to play when he was injured or having an injury during a game was his love for the fans. And he would say that this fan paid to see me play. And if I don't play today, then that fan may never be able to afford to play again. And so I have to play. And so he was playing for beyond him. It wasn't, oh, I've got to play because I've got to win another ring. It's really interesting to hear an athlete say, I'm tired, it's a tough gig, it's hard. Because I think we almost want to believe that the best athletes don't feel that. But that's not true.
No, it's not true. And I guess that period in 2019 kind of accelerated my if I had a bit of a normal career and I flew under the radar, I don't feel I'd feel this way. But those couple years really, I think, put a lot on my age. Like I'm 28, but I feel like, you know, I've traveled to pretty much every country. I've seen cultures. You know, I was traveling to countries when I was 13 and I saw what, you know, poverty was like. It really opened my eyes. And I guess those couple years accelerated almost pushed me to the end of my career a bit earlier because I felt that way. And I was so eternally hurting that I had to play for more than myself. And that's why now I'm exhausted when I train. I'm like, I don't want people to watch this and say, okay, soft or whatever, but it's just like, it's just hard. Like I am tired. I'm tired of playing tennis. Like it's more than going out last year, had the best year of my career and I'm playing in front of millions of people, stadiums packed out, everyone's eyes on me. I don't know if an athlete loves that, but I'm a bit to that. I feel like a circus animal a little bit. I walk out there and like, oh, we just want to see Kyrgios do something crazy. Like I'm sick of kind of playing that role. I'm sick of playing like, I have to turn to a completely different person and I don't like that. It's exhausting.
Do you think when you come back, how are you trying to figure out how you'll approach it differently? Have you thought about that?
Well, I think now I've kind of come to peace with, I only want to play for about another 1 to 2 years and be at the top and go out on my own terms. Like I would hate to have another surgery or anything like that. So I think I've still got the ability to have a good 1 to 2 years, and then that's it. I think I'll be at peace with everything I've achieved. And you're right. I'm going to have to just say, look, to everyone out there who wants me to play more, you're just going to have to be okay with me not playing anymore.
Yeah. Well, people are trying to figure out whether you'll be playing in December.
Yeah.
You're obviously, like you said, you're in pain even when you stand up.
Yeah.
Like, how do you deal with that anxiety of like, people want me to play in December, I don't even know if I'll be better yet.
Yeah.
Do I enter? How do you navigate that?
It's hard because, I'm going to the gym, I'm doing my rehab. You might have something seriously wrong with your body, and it takes time. Like I'm only human. I'd love to be like a Novak or someone that just is always healthy almost. It seems that way, but it takes months and months of, strength, consistency, diligence to get back to playing tennis at that high level again. Like I don't want to get back on tour and just play decent. I was competing for Grand Slams, so I want to get back to that level. So it might take, a bit more time.
Yeah. I want to go back a few things when you were saying like, if you could take all your haters out for dinner and hang with them. So imagine we were at dinner and all the haters are here right now. What do you want them to know about you to understand you deeply? If you could say 3 things to them to understand you more deeply and intently, what would you genuinely at the heart want them to know if we had the floor with them right now?
I guess I would want to listen to them more. I'd be like, why do you dislike me so much? Because I feel like when I'm reading all these comments, they really, truly don't like me. And I feel like I don't dislike anyone that I don't know. Like, I just think it's ridiculous to have an opinion or that person's this one. I have no idea who they are or how they are. So I would just ask them, like, why do you dislike me so much? And then I would make them open up. And then I guess, because I think, for instance, I'll use my girlfriend as an example. So my reputation in Australia is like arrogant, he's crazy, he's volatile. And having those 3 things when you're meeting a person for the first time, they're probably 3 pretty rough things to like already assume of someone. So I had to prove, every time I meet someone new, I have to kind of prove to them that's not me. And so, I asked her, what was the first 3 things you came to mind? And then she told me those 3 things. And so that's how everyone in the world that hasn't met me before assumes I am. And that's pretty brutal. Like how those 3 things they're terrible. I don't hang around with one person that is arrogant or volatile or crazy. So I think, and she just spent time like 2 times with me, and then she's like, you're like completely different to how the media paints you out to be. So I guess every hater just thinks I'm like that. I'm assuming. So I would just try and prove that I'm not like that. But it's so hard.
How did she give you the time of day to like make you believe that? Because like you said, for a lot of people, they just, and you've been together for a bit now.
Yeah,
like,
2 years now coming up. But I just bought a mirror off a small company. It was just excuses, just an excuse. Like, how am I going to get her to just give me the chance? And I feel like these people that hate me or don't like how I go about things, they won't even give me a chance. They won't even listen because they think that I'm crazy.
Mm. And do you think you just started playing the character at one point? Like
Definitely.
Well,
that's, at the end of the day, money's important. So I knew that Nick that's the one that everyone wanted. They didn't care about how I actually was. They just wanted that one. Like brands just wanted to work with that one.
Wow.
And that was hard. Like I was like, every time I do something brand wise earlier in my career, I was exhausted. I got home, I was like, thank God that's over. So I could just be myself again. And I'd meet people and they would just want that.
And how did you know that? Were there people in your like vicinity like telling you that, or like, because that's fascinating, right? Like the construction of talent is something that I think the average person is so separated from. Like when I moved to LA 5 years ago and I coach and work with so many different people in different parts of whether it's music, acting, athletes, and you start recognizing how their management and their teams want them to be a certain persona, whether it's like, you got to show that you're single because otherwise people won't be into you if you have a long-term relationship, or you've got to be this way so that this brand will want to work with you. How much of that was in your ear? Were you hearing things like that, or was it more in your own mind?
It was more in my own mind.
Right.
I think, my team now have only ever wanted me to be happy and be myself. And I know that. And that's why I keep them around. I have a really small circle, but I knew that brands, I knew that they wanted that Nick. And it's sad in a way because they don't even want to get to know me, like as me as a person. Like we wouldn't even sit down and have this conversation they just wanted me to be the one they see on the court, like be the entertaining one. And it's like, I'm not like that off the court. I'm very chilled out. And yeah, I feel like most people just want to meet that one.
Yeah, because it sells tickets.
Of course.
Gets attention, gets
Exactly.
the headlines.
That's right.
It makes a moment out of it.
Yeah.
When was the day where you felt you played that character really well? Like, when would you say you're like, you know what, that was the best acting gig I ever did? Where
Last year at the US Open was good. Like Arthur Ashe Stadium in New York is the biggest stadium that we have, and it's
Yeah,
crazy.
I went this year.
You go to the back and you look up as on the plane. It's just like a wall of people just like glaring down at you, and that's the coolest thing about tennis. There's nowhere to hide. Like if you're having a bad day, you can't sub out. There's no one to play your position, so you're just there. And I just feel like New York and the Americans, I feel extremely at home here. I feel like they really do enjoy when you put on a show and you do some crazy stuff out there. So every time I was stepping out on that court, it was like, like 5 minutes before I was in the locker room, I was like, okay, I got to be more of that Nick tonight, because I do appreciate the love that the American fans do give me. But yeah, every match was a bit of a show.
Do you feel differently about different places around the world? You've traveled, of course, as a tennis player. You travel everywhere. How do you feel like when you're in Australia versus when you're in the UK versus when you're in the US? Like, walk me through the differences you experience as a player in the media and everything else.
Australia, I hate playing in Australia. Like that's if you're gonna air this, obviously that's gonna. People think that like most Australians love playing in Australia, but there was one kind of moment that ruined it for me. I was playing second round of the Australian Open. I had some match points. It was like a 4.5 hour match, and I'd lost. I'd lost second round. I remember getting booed off the court in Melbourne, and that was one of the worst feelings for me, because I remember after that match, I locked myself in the physio room with my physio, and there were just people knocking in on the door. Like I had to do media, I had to do this. And I turned the lights off, and I was just so overwhelmed. Like I'd given my absolute all in front of my fans for 4 hours, and I lost the match, and I just got booed off the court. And for me, that really that put a sour taste in my mouth playing in Australia. And I know now, like, I've had some great results in Australia and they have been behind me, but I don't forget things like that. I feel like if I loved someone and I understood the effort and the hours they put in, I would never do that. I'd never boo off one of my hometown heroes. So, and that's why I guess it's affected my relationship with Australia, you know, playing for the country. It's because I've been battered in the media there. Like they've said some horrible things. Like there are some Australian legends that have told me and my family to go back to where we come from. And I just don't forget things like that. I've had Leighton Hewitt call me on my phone and say, why don't you want to play for the country? And like, everyone here wants you here. And it's like, yeah, but no other player in the country has dealt with the backlash or the negativity towards their family, their girlfriend, like me. Like that hurt. So I guess playing in Australia for me, I don't really like. London, I just don't fit it there at all. Like Wimbledon, it's a crazy feeling. It's like, the documentary said it's like a snowman in the desert. It literally is. I walk around there, everyone's like, oh my God, he's wearing like I could be wearing like an anime shirt. They're like, oh, look what he's wearing. Everything I do there is like under a microscope. And that's a cool feeling. I guess Novak would kind of understand what that feels like too. It's like the villain, you know? It's like no one wants to see you win. No one wants to see, and you made the finals. You have people like Piers Morgan just throwing absolute venom at you. And that's why I love playing the US Open, because I feel, wow, this is at home. Like the energy's amazing. And they bring that energy that I have, and I love playing there. So yeah, Australia and England are a bit. I don't like playing there, but US, I love it.
Yeah, good. I
love Asia as well. Asia's amazing.
Asia too.
Yeah, I think Asia just love entertainment. They love something different, and they're respectful. You know, I think they get that people are different there. But yeah, I love playing in Asia as well.
What would have changed if you were allowed to be nice guy Nick from the beginning, like, and people perceived you as you actually are? Like, how do you think that would have impacted your game, your career, the work?
Well, the first 5 years of my career, I was almost impossible to get any sort of deal with anyone, because they just thought I was volatile, crazy. They didn't want me representing their brand. Where I feel like if they knew how I was and actually like a nice guy, that would have helped. I probably would have made a lot more money. I probably would have been more at peace with people actually knowing that I was a good guy. Because for a minute there, I thought the whole world thought that I was just a terrible person. I feel like it would have helped me. I definitely don't think I would have fell into that dark period of my life as well. But conversely, I don't want to change that, because that makes me who I am today. Obviously, I know everyone kind of says that, but when I opened up on social media about it, the amount of people that now open up to me daily, I got people around the world that, I give them my number, and I've had phone calls with people and tried to articulate in a way that it's okay. Like, that's completely normal what you're going through, but like, please keep reaching out to me, stay in touch with me if you need any help. So that's been the most powerful thing in my career at the end of the day, is helping others getting through rough patches of their life. All the accomplishments, I don't actually care about them. I don't, all my people know, I don't ever sit there and talk about what I've achieved. Like, I don't really care about it. I think that's all a bit superficial, but the platform that I have now is amazing, what I can do with it.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? As a professional, we assume that complete control is a demonstration of brilliance, when the reality is that when you're playing something you love, it's natural to be passionate.
Yep.
And like, I think, I mean, I'm not an athlete, but as in, even if I'm playing football with my mates, if I miss a shot or someone misses a penalty, I can take it very seriously.
Yeah.
And I don't see, that's a sign of passion and care and enthusiasm and energy. It's not a sign of
not caring.
They're not caring or being angry at someone or being mad at my mate. It's my mate. He's always going to be my mate. But in that moment, it's like, dude, you should have put that penalty away, right? But we've tried to make, especially in tennis, it's almost like there's no space for passion and personality, especially in tennis.
Yeah, it's a white privilege sport. So I was behind the eight ball from the get-go. You know, I was colored, had some, you know, big personality, wore the emotion on my sleeve. So I was always trying to play against so many more people than just who was down. Beating the best players in the world is already hard enough. You know, the training every day, the diet, the discipline, that was already hard. But me, it was like I was playing against millions more people every time I went out on the court. And I think that's why I'm a bit more exhausted than the average tennis player now. When someone goes out there, they're just playing against who's down the other end, but I was playing against the media. I was playing against, because I knew that every little thing I did was under such a microscope. And even if I had a flawless match, it was like, oh, that's how he should be anyway. But then the minute I did something bad, it was like, oh, here it is. See, that's his true colors. I was like, I couldn't win. I actually couldn't win. And then if I was well behaved and disciplined, it was like, oh, no, it's boring. So it's like, okay, which one do you want? And that's how I've always felt like on the tennis world, that they haven't embraced me. And that's why I've got such a big chip on my shoulder now with the tennis world. It's like, I don't owe anything anymore. So that's been the biggest. It's just been a walking contradiction my entire career.
It sounds like a lot to carry.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I think that's why I fell into that dark space, because I knew that I couldn't win no matter what I did.
How does this? I wanted to show you this.
Yeah.
This one. Take a look at that. It's from the Boss Open, Stuttgart, June 2023, I believe.
Don't look happy. And I was just, this was when me coming off my knee injury, and I had a pretty serious operation, and I just knew that physically I probably wasn't ready to go. And it's hard because even when I don't play, or, you know, even during COVID, the tennis world used me as a kind of one of the key marketing points to keep, I guess, the sport afloat whilst during that period. And that's been one of the hardest things as well. It's like, from a sport that's given me so much negativity and, you know, kind of treated me like an outcast, they still use me as, you know, someone that they want to, you know, put on the front cover for, you know, tickets or getting people to be there. So it's like, I know that I just get treated so poorly in the tennis world. It's like, honestly, I look at that photo and I just look like I'm just spent. Like there's just no energy there. And it's sad because I'm just in front of a camera doing another interview because the tournament needs it. Yet I know that which I did go on to lose that match, got heat for it. So yeah, it's hard. It's hard. It really is.
Are you trying to heal your relationship with tennis and the industry, like for yourself, in the sense of it almost feels like you carry, there's validity to this, of course, like you carry like a sense of like pain and stress and victimhood to the industry because there's been so much pain caused to you. Is there any part of you that's trying to heal that so that you're not carrying that bitterness towards the industry?
I think so much damage has been done from, I guess, because when people ask me, like, if you had your time again, would you ever pick up a racket? And I genuinely have thought about it. And I don't think I'd ever play the sport. Like, I don't think I'd ever pick up a tennis racket. And that's such a scary thing because it's like my whole life has been built off tennis. And if I had this again, like to go again, I wouldn't play tennis. And I think that's so hard and it's so dark. Like my whole life now revolves around what I've achieved on the court. But then if I could do it again, I wouldn't ever want to pick up a racket. And that is like, and I'm genuinely being honest. Like I've had conversations with myself about it, but I don't think I can repair the damage that I guess the sport's brought upon me and just anyone. Like the amount of stress that is put on my family you can't heal that. Like, you know, about 6 months ago, someone came to my house with a gun and pointed at my mum to steal my car. And I never thought that I'd bring that up. Like, I live in Australia in a nice neighborhood, like where things like that just don't happen. And it's just been hard. Like, I never thought I'd deal with things like that. And like the trauma that my mum has now gone through. And yeah, I don't think I can repair my relationship with tennis at all.
Wow. I mean, it's amazing that you've been able to kind of take care of yourself and your family and figure it out, because a few years ago I interviewed Dennis Rodman and it was one of the toughest interviews I've ever done because he was in a really bad place at the time. I don't know him personally, so I don't know if he's better now or, you know, where he's at. But all I remember was that in that interview, he was like, I asked him what his purpose in life was, and he said to survive another day. Like, that's where he was at. And a lot of it was because of how he'd felt treated by the media, because he was like, you know, Dennis Rodman was everywhere when, you know, not only was he successful on the court, but off the court, his whole life was documented in so many ways. And he was the wild card too, like in his persona. And it's just fascinating to me, like, it's almost like until someone crashes or until someone burns, we don't realize how heavy media, and like, I don't think our brains are wired for millions of opinions.
No, they're not.
To write about us and our performance and our families and our life. And I think the amount of people that are now dealing with that today, who are in the spotlight constantly, has only increased. There are more people in the spotlight, and there are more people criticizing people in the spotlight. And I don't think we've ever stopped to think about, and when someone is as honest as you can only empathize to think, yeah, we don't realize the damage we're doing to people, because I don't think it's tennis that you're mad at as a sport, the activity. It's what comes with it, is what it sounds like to me.
Yeah, definitely.
It's not playing tennis.
No, because I enjoy it. I think tennis is a great sport, and everyone who plays it, I'm like, I can see how it's enjoyable and it's great for you. But yeah, it's more so, I think Kyrie Irving, you know, I love some of his stuff because he says, like, I don't think people understand words can actually hurt someone a lot. And I've said the exact same thing, like fame and social media, it's all man-made. Like, someone's not supposed to wake up and then see such negativity feed into their brain constantly every day. And like, how do you expect someone to just perform or just survive with that much negativity? And I have conversations, obviously you wouldn't understand, but I have conversations with some of my friends about it. No one can understand that, because it's like, it's not normal. Like, you're not supposed to see all that negativity. You're not supposed to deal with it. And I don't know, I guess I've kind of run out of answers or solutions as to how do you deal with that. Like, yeah, you can speak to people about it, but it's so overwhelming, and how do you stop it? And you're right, until someone really crashes and burns, then you're like, I think we push it too far. But that's human nature. We all take things for granted, and we all don't understand our actions until, you know, there's a reaction. But yeah, I mean, I don't like to word it in the sense that I'm just surviving. Every day I'm just surviving. But it does feel like that for me. Like, that's why everything's a bonus. Like, if I'm here tomorrow and I'm enjoying it, I'm eating Chipotle and I'm going to watch a Lakers game or a Clippers game, like, that's amazing. Like, that's awesome. I never thought that I'd still be here doing those things. But obviously Dennis just couldn't obviously articulate any other way. Like, that's how it is. That's how it feels like at times. And just a bit dark to say it like that. But
yeah, he was in a dark place.
But I guess that's just what it feels like for me half the time as well.
What I was saying is, it's amazing that you've been able to be more upbeat and kind of positive. And I hope you keep finding that, because just from the few moments we spent, I could tell you like having a good time. You like smiling, you like laughing, you like, you know, like, there's a positive energy that surrounds you from the moment you walked into my home today. And I hope you always hold on to that, because you have that natural ability to make people feel good and have a positive energy. And I hope you never lose that, because it seems to be naturally who you are. It's so easy to go down the other track. How have you managed, though, with your relationship too? Like, obviously you're quite public about your relationship. Like, how have you managed to maintain that in a positive way as well? because that seems to be a positive part of your life, a part of your life you like sharing,
Yep.
a part of your life that you were talking about earlier. Like, but having a relationship in the spotlight is very
Brutal.
challenging.
Yep.
So how have you managed to keep that in the spotlight, but then also keep it positive?
Well, I was very, that just comes from experience as well. I've had relationships prior that, were toxic and they didn't end up going well. And I think the thing I love about my relationship now, we have such strong boundaries and respect for each other. Like we don't, and with social media and relationships in general, like boundaries can be a bit soft. And I think, I come from a background where my parents have been together for nearly 40 years.
Wow.
And they argue and they joke with each other, they get on each other's nerves. And, I spoke to my mum about it. She goes, patience is the biggest thing in a relationship, where communication and patience. And I think like my girlfriend's a bit younger than I am, but we've sat down, we've set our boundaries and respect for each other. And I think that's why it works, because we understand that being in the spotlight's brutal. Like for relationships, there's always gonna be people trying to tear you down, send a message here or there, like even liking a photo, like these types of things. And I've now realized that I have to be diligent with these things because it's a respect thing. Like on social media, I guess that's like who you are in today's day and age, is who you are. Who are you on Instagram? Who are you on Twitter? So you have to make sure that you're ticking every box on those sort of platforms. But yeah, and my girlfriend gets it and she listens to me. If I hadn't have all these experiences, she wouldn't listen. So she knows that I've been through a lot and she trusts me as well. So she does listen and we have a great relationship. Yeah.
Yeah. The boundaries part is so important.
It's so important.
Yeah.
Like if I always have this example, like, like if she was like pregnant with my kid and my phone just popped up with like, girls just like liking my photo and stuff, like that plays a part. I think that builds up, tension, and then it just explodes. So, I try and tick every box and make her feel comfortable and respected. And especially it's heightened because we're in the spotlight so much. So I try and do everything I can to make her feel comfortable.
Yeah, no, it's, I think I remember my wife and I had been together for like 3 years before. No, we'd been married for 3 years and together for 6 years before we did something together publicly on social media.
Yep.
And I felt that was so important for us because we'd been together for a while, but then when social media started to take off for me and the content that I was making, we were just still like finding our foundations and like figuring it out. And I can't imagine if we would have been active on social media together in any way earlier than that for us, because I think I was just figuring out what it meant for me, then she was figuring out what it meant for her. And I feel like a lot of people, it doesn't matter whether you have a platform or not, we're not having those conversations and figuring that out with another human being. And even now, even till this day, my wife has different priorities on social media and what she wants to share than I do. And it comes with so many interesting question marks. Like we had someone asking us a question of like, oh, like, well, you post about your relationship, but she doesn't. Like, does that mean there's an issue? And I was like, no, it's just we have different ways. Like I love sharing about our relationship. She likes keeping it a bit more private. Like that doesn't mean that there's an issue, but it's so fascinating how everything gets taken out of context.
Yeah, I think most relationships, the problems stem from social media. And I've got friends that have very healthy relationships with different standards on social media, like you said, but I feel like to give the relationship the best chance of working, you need to see eye to eye on those things. Because in my previous relationships, the standards on social media weren't the same and they weren't as respected of both sides and it didn't go well. But here we see eye to eye, and I think it's a crucial part of it because again, social media, what is it? Like, I didn't grow up with social. I had a flip phone and I remember the first time when Instagram became a thing and it was like you used to share a picture of a flower and stuff. Now it's like a whole business. It's like it's just evolving and it's changing. So I think it's so important to have these conversations because unfortunately it plays a huge part in relationships. It does.
Yeah. Another thing that came up on social media was your interaction with Drake that you posted. Did you ever get together?
Well, the thing is our beef was so ridiculous. Like I was 19 and I just said I came out slow, so I'm not going to listen to Drake. I said it jokingly, and then he came out and said, "Oh, who is this guy? I'll chop him down." And I was like, "All right, you're like 5'9", I'm 6'4", and then And then he reached out after Wimbledon, and then I went back, and I would love to. I mean, I would love to get him on my stuff, but I also respect these guys have so much going on, in their life, and if they speak to me or send me a message, that's a bonus. It comes back to all that being a bonus. So I do love his music. I'm just gonna say that.
Yeah. So do I.
Yeah,
so
it's
do
good.
I.
It's good.
And but no, it's funny. But that was an old conversation.
Yeah, an old conversation.
Yeah. That was funny. That was funny. No, I mean, watch it. I think you guys doing a podcast today would be dope.
That would be cool.
I think it'd be really good. Well, let's put it out there. I think that would be cool. Like, that'd be awesome to watch. No, I love what you keep going back to, man. I think it's, I've met so many people who have achieved incredible things, but they've lost that childlike view of it. They've lost that, not that they've lost gratitude, but they've lost that feeling of like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. Like that feeling of magic. And it feels like you've held on to that.
I think that's the only thing like even just driving to your house today, like I was like, this is insane. Like I just love, like I have utmost respect for everything you've created. Like you must just look back at your journey and be like, wow, like this is sick. And I love reminding people of like, not that they need it, but like it feels good when someone comes into you and actually is like, dude, well done, like good stuff. Because I can only imagine how hard you've worked for everything here. And like, I feel like the normal person doesn't really realize how hard someone has to work to achieve all this. You didn't just put your hand into a raffle and pull it out and be like, okay, I'm Jay Shetty now with all this. Like, and I just love making people feel that way. And it's because we all started from something so small. And I think that's so cool.
And how you find a way to still let yourself feel that way.
Yeah, sometimes I like making myself feel good, and it's not in an arrogant way. It's like I just think I've done some pretty cool things, like whether it be on the tennis court or collaborations with people. Like it's cool, and I think for the viewers that are going to watch this, like it's not like we just started in this position. Like we were just normal people, and we didn't really ask for everything that came with it. We're all trying to figure it all out.
What's been your proudest moment off the court?
I guess anytime I'm with my family and, we're having a good dinner together, we might be eating at a restaurant and just all together, just any moment like that for me now is the best. I just feel like because during that period when I was really unwell, I didn't talk to my family at all. I didn't, speak to them. I put so much stress on my family. And now when we meet up and we have a gathering and we're all there and we're just having some good laughs. Like those are my favorite moments now. Like the simplest of things make me so happy now.
Yeah. Do you do a lot together during the holidays coming up? Or?
Yeah, we're going to, there's so many, we have the annual Kyrgios Christmas party, like things like this.
Tell me about that. Tell me about the annual Kyrgios Christmas party.
So every year there's like in Canberra, like 300 to 400 people come through our house during the night.
300 to 400 people.
And then they're coming and going. There's always a theme. Like this year it's Gatsby. So everyone's going to be in suits, cigars and stuff. So it's good. Last year was like superheroes, supervillains. Like those types of things now are amazing. Like I can't wait to just see all my loved ones, family and friends. And that's what I look forward to now. And yeah, I guess everything that I achieve is, and then people like ask me that, they're like, no, you're just being humble. It's like, no, I genuinely just love simple moments like that. It's so good.
Yeah. Yeah. You were talking about you've been inspired by the next generation. Walk me through a moment you've had with like a young fan or one of those moments that you feel like that stays with you and that keeps you motivated and keep going.
Well, I guess my game style is, unorthodox and, I'm playing crazy shots in crazy moments. And when people send me videos of like their young kids playing, they're trying to hit a tweener or they're trying to serve like me, that's cool. I think someone that I kind of look up to is like Allen Iverson. You look at his basketball game and you look at the culture he left, the way he dressed, and some of his press conferences are hilarious. And I think he had his own style and people wanted to be him. And I think when it's all said and done, there's going to be so many people around the world trying to play like me and play the shot that they're not supposed to play, and because it gives them that thrill. So I think if that carries on at the end of my career, that's something pretty special.
Yeah, it's very cool. I still remember the Allen Iverson Reebok I Am What I Am adverts. I don't know if you had Reebok back in Australia back then, but in the UK we had these ads and it used to just say I am what I am, and Allen Iverson kicked it off. And it stayed with me ever since that day, even though, I maybe didn't even follow the brand or the sport that much. Yeah. But still, it stayed with me.
Yeah, he's like the definition of that. Like, I just love his press conference. So good. because he was just like a human. He said like, I cry just like you guys. You know, I'm not the best every day. I don't feel like working. I don't feel like showing up. And you expect me to do all these things. And I think, yeah, we're just normal people towards athletes or people that, you know, have a lot of things going on. Like they just lose a bit of compassion towards those people, I think.
Yeah. You've mentioned crying a few times. I was wondering, when was the last time that you like really cried or something that really made you cry?
I probably could have broken down a couple of times during some of this conversation, but I try not to, I try to control it a little bit more these days. I just feel like I used to cry a lot. You know, I've had conversations with my mum, heaps of people. I feel like I can break down so often just because things are just so raw and they just have, it's like if you pull the wrong string, I feel like at any moment in time, I probably could get really emotional. But I think we do need to be a bit stronger than that at times. But yeah, my dad, I draw a lot of strength from my dad. You know, he never cries and he's like the strong person in our family. So I looked up to him a lot with that type of stuff. So yeah, I mean, I used to cry a lot, yeah.
But do you still see crying as a weakness, or you've seen it as a good outlet as well?
I mean, you're obviously feeling that way for some reason. I think it's not good to let it in. It's not good to bottle it up. During this conversation, I felt like crying. And because you've touched on things that are so emotional. And I think that if I don't try and be stronger, then I'm always going to, you know, if someone's going to watch this, like, I don't want them to think it's like the only way is to open up and cry about it. You can be strong about things, and I still feel like crying. Of course I do, but I feel like I need to be a bit stronger than that.
Yeah, that's an interesting, I like that kind of nuance because, of course, I believe it's healthy to cry.
Yep.
I think it's necessary to cry sometimes when you feel a certain way. But at the same time, I agree with you that the ability to know you feel like crying, but keeping it together, not for performance or not for the sake of how other people feel, but you're almost strengthening your ability to deal with an emotion is an interesting nuance. Because I feel like the world used to tell men, like, you can't cry.
Yeah.
And then it became like, you should cry. Yeah. and then there's like this in between, which is the reality of like, I can relate to what you just said, where I'm like, I like crying sometimes. I think it's important. But then there's sometimes where I'm like, no, actually, I want to be able to hold myself. Yep. Like I just gave it was my sister's wedding like 2 months ago. Yep. And I didn't anticipate how emotional it was going to be. So my sister's like 5 years younger than me. Yep. She's been my baby ever since she grew up. She's a little kid for me. Yep. She's short as well. She's shorter than me. So it's like, she's literally like a child. And I knew her wedding was coming up and all the rest of it. You prepped yourself for it. I kind of prepped myself, but I didn't realize how emotional it was going to be. And Indian weddings are like huge. I got a guy. He's gonna be watching this for sure. He told me he sent me all the videos. Nuts. Yeah, you guys are crazy. It's crazy. Yeah. So it was 5 events over 7 days. Yeah, and every event has like 300 people at it. And so we're out there, and I was more emotionally drained after that week than I am for my whole year of like giving and helping and everything that I do. That was the most emotionally moving week of my entire life. Yep. And I walked my sister down the aisle, and if you watch the video, I'm literally trying, and I'm doing what you just said you had to do. I just had to hold back because I knew if I cry and she sees me cry, then she's gonna cry. Then her makeup's gonna go bad. Then she's gonna be mad at me later that I made her cry on her wedding day. And so I'm holding it back. And then my wife thought about it ahead. She told her, she goes, "Don't look at him during the wedding ceremony, because he's going to be crying." And so my sister avoided eye contact with me the whole ceremony because the whole time I was crying. And it was just fascinating to me because I've probably not cried that much ever in my life. But there were times when I had to hold back for her sake. And there were times when I let it out. Mm-hmm. And I like that you brought that up because I do think that we've gone from one extreme to the other extreme of men never cry to men should cry all the time to figure out that healthy balance. Yeah, I think it's with anything, like you get injured, you break a bone, it heals, you get stronger. So like, it's not to say that you shouldn't acknowledge the pain or acknowledge crying, but trying to stay strong through those moments, I think is just as important of realizing, you're hurt and those are touchy topics. But how are you going to, every time someone brings it up, are you just going to cry, or are you going to be able to talk about it and educate other people that are going through the same thing? You know, I think you've got to be a beacon. And just, hold it together a little bit. What's your days looking like right now? Like now that you're in your element, you're having a good time, things are opening up, you're doing new creative endeavors. What what does your day look like right now and what you're loving about it?
Yeah, well, my team comes with me for these opportunities, and obviously, like, you know, I kind of, it's all insane the fact that I have these options now, and so obviously training is a big part of my day still. You know, obviously rehabbing through, you know, surgeries and just maintaining that strength whilst you're not playing is a big thing. You can get pretty, you know, relaxed with it, and you can lose years of work in a couple of months. So, you know, I'm trying to stay on top of that, and then with doing all these things, I feel like I just got a new passion because I love communicating with people. I love learning about people, and I love helping. And I just love entertaining, giving the audience something different than what they've seen from me the last 10 years. So just all these types of things, training, you know, seeing the world with my girlfriend is I know that we're extremely blessed. You know, 95% of relationships, you don't get to travel. You don't get to do the world like we get to do it. So I know that I'm extremely blessed in that department, and a little 1% of NBA games. I love basketball, so yeah.
You've been watching?
Yeah. I'm watching. We might be going tonight to the game too.
Oh,
so,
nice. Who's your team?
I'm a Boston Celtic fan.
Okay.
So being in LA is tough.
Yeah. What's been the best country you visited, or favorite place that you visited, maybe with your girlfriend, even on your own, that's kind of like left a mark?
Well, Australia is the best place in the world. I'm just going to say that. It is. Every person that goes
I
out.
loved going to us. I
yeah.
had the best time.
Yeah.
Like, out of my whole tour, I had so much fun in Australia. It was amazing.
Australia's the best place in the world. I love the States personally just because of the sport. You guys do sport here like nothing else. But my mum is half Malaysian. I'm half Malaysian. My mum's Malaysian. So every time I go to Malaysia or, you know, any Asian country, I love the food. Like, you know, my mum cooks. I'm not just saying this. My mum is honestly probably one of the best cooks in the world. And I've grown up with such a good food background. So I could live in Asia hands down. But the States, probably somewhere there. I mean, I'm half Greek. Europe's nice, but Australia's the best place in the world. It's the best place in the world.
Where in Australia? If someone had to visit, where should they go? What should they do?
I come from Canberra, and everyone from Australia thinks Canberra is not a very good place, but I love the simplicity of Canberra. Like, I love coffee. Like, I love the cafe scene. I love just chilling. But Sydney, Melbourne, or even Gold Coast, something like that, beautiful places. Just such a good lifestyle there. So safe, and you can just do whatever you need to do in Sydney. I mean, Australia in general. So
yeah. I need to go back. I went for work.
Yeah.
And I always feel like when you go for work, it's different.
Definitely, of course.
And so I was telling my wife, I was like, we have to go back and just experience it. I'll have to come to you for all the recommendations.
Yeah, we've got a couple good spots. What
would you say now, if there's anything, keeps you up at night still?
Yeah, so I lost my grandma when I was about 19 after I first broke onto the scene, and she was like my best friend through my childhood. Like, my mum was always working. I didn't get to see much of my mum. Like, my grandma picked me up from school, dropped me to trainings. We slept in the same room together. We had bunk beds. Like, we were like best friends. And she kind of passed away when things started to get a bit crazy for me in my career, like media, and, you know, I probably didn't spend enough time with her that I would have liked. And I think back to when, you know, she was in a nursing home towards the end of her life, and I feel like that kind of really bothers me. I feel like tennis took time away, not tennis itself, like you said, the sport, just everything that came with it took special time away that I should have had with her. And I was so young and naive to say to these people, no, I don't want to do it. Like, it was like the time where, you know, money was coming in for my family. I was changing my entire family's life. So I felt like that sits with me, and that's painful because she was my best friend, and I guess she maybe understood it and maybe she didn't. So I feel like if I could spend some more time with her instead of doing media or an interview or business or something like that, I guess I wish I could have more time with her. But hopefully she's up there watching and proud of everything that I'm doing now. But yeah, I guess that I think about that, you know, all the time.
That's a tough one when you can't do anything about it now.
You can't change it.
Yeah, you can't change it. Those are the ones that are like, you know, it's tough thinking you could have done more, and you're so young too, and like your career's taking off.
Yeah.
Like, it's so forgivable in that sense.
Yeah.
Like, you know, how would you know at 19 what to prioritize and what to focus on? And you're living the dream in one sense. And like you said, you're changing your family's life. It's hard to deal with that. And I guess, would you say, it doesn't sound like that's a regret though. It sounds like it's something that's kind of.
Yeah, I think I used to think it was like, I used to really be upset about it, and I was regretful of doing everything that came with it. I was like, I hated tennis. I hated everything that came around it, because I was like, I just kind of, I didn't leave her, but I kind of just didn't spend as much time as I used to spend with her. So now I've come to understand it. Like, I was young. I wasn't educated on these things that I had to be doing. So I guess I've been a bit nicer to myself on that topic, but I still think about it. Like I unfairly think about it at nighttime.
Yeah. It's amazing how the mind works, right? Like you can literally avoid something the whole day,
Yep.
and somehow at night it comes back.
Yeah.
And it just like almost like on clockwork, like on time.
Yep.
It's so fascinating. How have you found a way of switching those thoughts off? Or?
I guess I just realized now that that's just more love and more time that I wanted with her. So I'll try and look at it as a positive. Like, why am I always thinking about this moment? Why is it always coming up? It's just because she meant a lot to me, and that's, I have so much more stuff that I wish I could just sit down with her now and speak about everything that's been going on. And, she would love it. She was the ultimate jokester in our family. She was just a free spirit, and I feel like that's where I get some of my personality from on the court. So if I could just sit down with her now and just chat about things would be amazing. And I guess that's what I just try and turn into a positive. Like I just got so much stuff that I want to talk to her about. And I feel like, yeah, if she was here during that dark time, I think I would have got through it a lot easier. But yeah, I guess I just turned it into a positive.
Yeah, there's also, you've said that, after the Wimbledon game with Djokovic, you felt like you could have won it. Like there was a feeling like you could have done that. That could have been it. How much does that play on your mind?
A lot, that I was 2 sets away from winning Wimbledon, and if I played anyone else on planet that day, I felt like I would have won. So yeah, I mean, now I'm at peace with it, but for the 3 to 4 months after, that was like an everyday. It was like not just a nighttime thing. It was like, what could I have done differently? Every time I was in the gym, every time I was on court, like why didn't I, that was my opportunity. Why didn't I just grab it? But now I understand, like the more he achieves now, the more I'm nice. I'm like, okay, no, everyone's trying to still figure this out. But yeah, I mean, look, more than 99% of the world hasn't figured out how to beat him on a consistent basis. So I can't be too angry about it.
Yeah, I like that perspective.
Yeah,
that's a good mindset to have. Yeah. But it's so interesting, right? Like I can totally empathize with that idea of how you can be so harsh and heavy on yourself for like 3 to 4 months, because you can overanalyze. How have you mastered the art of limiting overanalysis? Or what have you learned about stopping overanalysis to the point that it becomes a weakness?
Well, tennis is a sport where you have to be a good loser, because every week you're losing. Unless you're one of these top guys who's winning consecutive tournaments, you're experiencing a loss every week. And you just have to pick yourself up and go again in a different country, different surface, different time zone. So you just have to just be really good at understanding what you've done wrong, moving on, and just going again. Because 1 to 2 weeks in tennis can change your life. You can have 30 bad weeks in a row. The minute you have one really good result, things change for you. So you have to, that's what I love about tennis. You have to learn to bounce back quickly. And I think that's a life lesson. Like, you're going to experience ups and downs. Things are going to be horrific for a couple of months. They might be great. So it's like riding the wave and being kind of equal through everything and just backing up and going again. Consistency is, you learn that from tennis so early on, which is cool. I like that.
Yeah.
Where other sports, you have an off season. So you have like a period of time to say, well, what do I need to get better at? I can get stronger. With tennis, there's no off season. It's like every week there's a new tournament. So you can't be too down when you lose. And then when you win, it's like, but you're playing tomorrow. So you got to just start again.
Yeah. What's something in life that you've had to learn the hard way?
That's hard.
Yeah, take your time.
I don't know. Let me ask you that question.
What's something I've had to learn the hard way? Here's a hard question, so let me take a second too. That no one's coming to save me. That no one magic person is going to discover my abilities, my qualities, and help me become the best version of myself. That there's not going to be one person who just
activates it all.
Activates it all and makes it easier and shows me the path and clears all the, clears all the obstacles and says, Jay, just walk this way. And
like when you put something in an iPhone maps and it tells you which direction to go.
Yeah, exactly. Like someone who's going to come and show you the map of life. And no matter how much someone cares or doesn't care, that's not there. And I think I just had this inbuilt belief since I was young that someone else was going to discover me and help me.
Yep.
And it was only when I realized that that person was me that life became easier. But it took me a long time to learn that. And, you know, they talk about it in dating, especially for the way women were raised, but it's called the Disney princess syndrome. This idea of like how Disney made young women believe that one day your knight in shining armor will come and save you, and there'll be this perfect guy who has everything figured out, and you'll kiss a frog and he'll become a prince, and all these ideas. And I think we all carry that in some way. So I think that's been really hard for me. And I think the other one was what we were talking about earlier. Like, I think something I've had to learn the hard way is I deeply believed that when I achieve a certain level of success, that everyone will like me. Or that when I make it to this level, that everyone will recognize my struggle and my pain, and everyone will acknowledge how hard I've worked.
Yeah, I guess that's probably been my biggest one. Like I wish people, like when I meet new people, that they just, like how I am with people that have achieved things, I'm so grateful. I'm so like proud of them in a way. And I don't even know these people, but I'm like, wow, you must have worked really hard. Like that for me is like, I wish people would give me more, just maybe a little bit more credit from time to time, you know, just of some of the things that it's been hard. It hasn't been like an easy journey at all for me, and for I'm sure anyone in a position of achieving things. It's been so hard.
Yeah. And that could be anything, right? Like I think we're talking about everyone.
Everyone, just
like
anyone.
If you're someone who's just figuring out how to pay the bills for your family, or you're taking care of your kids.
Like you deserve a little pat on the back. You deserve to sit down and maybe be made to feel good a little bit about things, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's almost weird because we think of that as cheesy.
Yeah.
Like we think of that as like, oh, get over it. Like, you know, just, but I feel like we all need, me and my friend talk about this, my best man at my wedding, like my best mate. We talk about this a lot, about how we all need a sense of acknowledgement and recognition for what we're doing. And a lot of the time that's seen as like soft, or it's seen as like, oh, you shouldn't need that, like get over it.
I think it's motivating. Like I think it makes you want to achieve more when people recognize, okay, you're doing really well, you're on the right track, keep going. It's not like, it's not arrogant, I think, to just sit down and recognize that I've come a long way, I'm on the right track, and what I'm doing is very special. I think that could be motivating in a way, rather than seen as like soft, or why do you need credit for that? Like, it's like, you're not doing things that every single person is doing. Like that you're doing, obviously something about you is special. Your you know, your details, or you're ticking everything off the box. Like that's, you should need acknowledgement for that.
Yeah. What's is there a moment that you wish you had acted differently in a press conference or in a game? A moment where you look back and think, you know what, actually, I'm better than that, and I'm a nice guy. That's not me. That was so far from who I am that I actually don't feel good about.
Yeah, I've had so many moments like that. I mean, I could go on YouTube now, and I guess the thing about tennis is when you finish a match, you only you have to do media like so soon to when finishing, so you haven't had time to digest any sort of emotions. So you go in there. And the thing about it now with me, I walk into a room with about 50 people all ready to attack me. They're not actually going to ask me about, oh, how did the match play out? They're going to just nitpick and come at me in an aggressive way. And I haven't had time to digest. I haven't even eaten after 4 hours sometimes. And then when I did that time on Piers Morgan, he's like, this guy's so rude. He's so disrespectful. I played for 4.5 hours. I needed to eat some food for my nutrition and my preparation. So it's like, I walk in there and I have had no time to digest. And then these people are just going at me, and then I retaliate. And for me, I'm not, that's fine. You should be able to retaliate. But then I look back at all the people that are watching this, kids, and they see I could be disrespectful to someone that I don't even want to be that. But in that moment, I just haven't had any time to just reflect on what's just happened. And I feel like, I do regret sometimes on how I've acted on the tennis court or in a press conference, because it's not that version of Nick Kyrgios that I want people to, like millions of people to watch and say, oh, that's how he is, what a prick. You know what I mean? But that's not me. And Australians in general, we have a bit of that, like where if you come at us, we'll retaliate in a way of, you know, we'll make you feel it too. And I guess that my upbringing where, you know, the bullying and stuff, I've always had that chip on my shoulder where I'm in a position to give it, I'll give it a little bit, you know? So I don't feel proud of making other people feel bad. And I think that's just more of a retaliation of, I know how much it hurts, so now I'm going to give it back to you a little bit. And that's not a good thing to do, especially after, you know, in a press conference where millions of people are going to see it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely have some regrets with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Especially when it's not you.
It's not me. Yeah.
I think
it's
that's
just-
I think that's the hardest part, right? Like when something's you, there's a certain understanding that you have with it. But when you feel like that's not me,
Yeah.
like I can empathize with that. Like if in any conversation or anything that I've done more offline where I've not acted like myself, it's almost the hardest thing in the world because I'm like,
Yeah.
God, now I've shown someone a side of me that's not me.
Exactly. And then
And-
they run with it. They're like,
and
oh,
that's the
look how
thing.
he is.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that was like a 10-minute press conference, you know?
Yeah,
It's not
yeah.
even at all of what kind of person I am at all. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's been hard.
And it's interesting, by the way, it is interesting to understand the context of you're playing for 4.5 hours, you haven't eaten. Like, it's good to know, well, you know, like
Yeah.
the human side of like, if you're watching a press conference, you're not thinking it through that deeply.
No, you're not. Yeah.
You're just like, oh, this guy just come off the court,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
whatever. Like,
yeah.
he's, you know, it's what we do. And it's interesting because I'm like, yeah, if I was hungry for 4.5 hours
Yeah.
and I've just played and I get asked a question that annoys
Yeah,
me,
yeah.
I can imagine retaliating too and being defensive.
Like exactly. If the player had, you know, if you came back into the tennis courts the next day and had a whole night to reflect on the match, moments where you were great, moments where you weren't, you could just speak calmer about situations. It's like when couples have a fight, sometimes figuring it out then and there is not the best thing. You know, you need some time away, you need to reflect, you need to have a conversation and come back. And when you're both calmer, like rather than when the emotions are high and you just turns into an absolute explosion. So yeah, I mean, that's the same thing.
Yeah.
And I'm not walking into a room where they're empathetic that I lost. They're like, oh, why'd you lose for? Why'd you act like this? It's like, okay, you attacking me. Now I'm going to go back at you. And then, so.
Yeah, and it's the trap.
It is.
It's the game
exactly.
they want to
and
play.
That's the articles and the headlines they want.
It's the game they want to play.
So-
yeah, who is that? Who is the basketball player who had a really good response? Was it Giannis?
Oh
He's-
yeah. And he's like, you know, if you don't get a promotion, do you see that as a bad year? Like,
Yeah.
exactly. Everything's building
yeah,
to, you know, losing is not always seen as a failure. Why is that? So
yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, no, it was. What is the joy? Tell me how it feels.
Yep.
To break a racket. Like, how does that feel?
It does feel good.
It does feel good, doesn't it? It does feel good.
Sometimes it feels
Yeah.
good.
When
You know,
does it feel good and when does it not feel good?
I guess it doesn't feel good when I know it's detrimental to what's going on. When I get to that level of anger, I know that it's not helping me. But sometimes, you know, if I've lost the match and, you know, the match is over and I go to my bag and I see it there and I know that I've got all this anger built up and I let loose, it does feel good. The timing of doing those things can help your performance, or, you know, because sometimes I've seen in my experience, but other athletes like Djokovic and Serena Williams, all these legends have broken rackets, but the response after that's the key component. And sometimes you need to let off the steam because you're expecting more from yourself. And I feel like the response, if you're going to come back with energy and, you know, say, all right, I did that, now it's time to reset, that it can actually help you in a way.
Walk us through the balance of when anger is helpful versus when it becomes destructive,
Well,
as
if
the
you-
way you found it.
Because I've been angry where I've broken rackets and then I become, you know, smart ass with the umpire, and then I'm actually not concentrating on what I need to do to win the match. It's like I'm more pissed off at myself, I'm more pissed off at the umpire. Where I've had times where if I break a racket and, you know, I walk back to my bag and I'm like, all right, here we go. You've done that now. You know, it's time to reset. You know, we're not playing well, but now how are we going to change that? So I feel like the discipline of doing, and these great players have shown that, and they start playing better and they end up winning the match. So it's hard because you don't want to make it seem like a violent act, because then kids are going to be like, oh, it's okay to throw rackets. It's okay to, but that's why I think the response after that's more important. It's like, hey, he did that, but then he started playing unbelievable. So something must have clicked in his head after he did that. So I guess it can be positive, but I'm not going to sit here and say, yeah, smash all the rackets in the world. No, no, not at all.
Yeah. No, that's a thoughtful response. Like I can appreciate that. Like I can definitely see how getting that kind of competitive spirit out
Yep.
in a physical act can be like helpful.
Yeah.
I can recognize that.
Yeah,
And unless it hurts someone else, which
Yeah.
it isn't.
exactly.
And so it's interesting how, like you're saying, like the greats do it often.
Yep.
But the response is like, how did that help you process things?
Yep.
Versus how did it lead you down
It's
a
like a
dark hole?
complete reset almost.
Yeah.
So yeah, and
Yeah.
I've seen it all the time. Like I've seen Djokovic, Alcaraz, Serena do these things, and it's like, okay, they realize they're not playing up to their standard, and they go back and you see them breathing, and then it's like they've done that. It's like they've reached the limit of playing really bad, and now it's
Yeah.
time to switch that. So it's good.
Yeah.
I mean, it can be used as a reset.
Yeah. How much has meditation and breathing or mindfulness been a part of your world, or is that something you're discovering or you've been practicing for a while?
Oh, I'm a complete work in progress. Like, people think that I've got my stuff figured out and, you know, I have a nice routine. Like, people don't realize that having a routine is harder than doing something different and having stimulation every day. That's easy. Like, waking up and doing something different is so easy every day, but can you get up week in, week out, monthly, yearly, doing the same routine, having the discipline? Like, having a routine for me is probably the hardest thing ever. And that's been my weakness in my career, is consistency. Okay, he played great that week, but can he show up? And I haven't proven, I guess that's what I haven't proven, is I've been consistent enough to make it this far, but am I consistent enough to be a champion? Probably not. And I know that. So I think I'm just a work in progress, whether it's meditation, whether it's breathing. Like, I started Pilates like 2 months ago. I never thought that I'd ever start Pilates. Like, when my girlfriend went to Pilates, I started laughing. I started doing it. I'm like, oh my God, this is hard. This is hard as. I'm still trying to figure out, like, breathing for me is a big one when I'm on court. I really am mindful of my breathing, but I don't even think I'm at that point of discipline or consistency yet to meditate. I hate being alone with my thoughts still. I still have extremely dark thoughts. So I think I just try with easy, you know, consistent habits, you know, go for a walk to get a coffee in the morning with my girlfriend, or, you know, just these lighter things. Having a routine for me is incredibly hard still. And people with routine think, oh, they're boring. No, they're really disciplined and consistent with their work. And that's really healthy.
Routines and disciplines, I mean, yeah, they're so hard to build.
So hard
to build, easy to break.
Yep.
So easy to fall off, so hard to get back on.
Yep.
And so powerful when you get them right.
Yep.
And yeah, anyone who can keep a discipline together every day it's a serious achievement.
It is.
What's the most difficult emotional thought that you deal with regularly still, or an emotional thought you struggle to deal with still?
That I'm not enough. I think that was the biggest one I think I struggled with, was I'm letting people down and I'm not enough. And that's from, you know, millions and millions of opinions that have just built up over time. And I can see, you know, when I lose a tennis match or when I don't achieve things, I can see sometimes even my family get disappointed. And it just ate me up for so long. Like, going on social media saying, because I was supposed to be the next after the big three, it was like, okay, Kyrgios is going to take over the mantle. He's going to be the one for 15 years, you know, being professional, winning Grand Slams. And I think I look back on my career and I didn't even get close, not even a quarter of what people thought that I should have achieved with the talent that I have. And I still deal with it. It's like, I'm never going to achieve what all these people thought I was going to achieve. But I've had tough conversations with myself in the mirror saying, like, am I okay with not maybe winning a Grand Slam? Am I okay with not achieving? You know, I am. I'm okay with that. But it's still hard because it's like, I know that my family would love that. Like, they would prefer me being that type of champion or this person. And I really did struggle with that early on. Like, it's hard. Everyone wants you to be something that you're not. But the one thing that they kind of understand more is that I'm happier being this way. I'm happier just being myself and having some fun and just doing it my way. And that's I'm so thankful that the most important people they can just understand. I'm not saying that that's what they want, but at least they can understand it now. But yeah, that was the hardest thing, I think, for me.
That makes sense. Nick, you've been incredible, man. This has
Appreciate
been what I really appreciate about you is the genuine, authentic, raw, real answers. Like, I can tell when I'm sitting with you, I'm listening to someone who's not. It's interesting, in a press conference, it seems like you don't filter the combativeness.
Yep.
And today I'm like, you're not filtering to make yourself look a different way or appear a different way. You're just being who you are. And I really appreciate that, because I think we all need to make sense of it. And I think a lot of us who are struggling with that feeling of not being enough, or not living up to the expectations of our family, or not having achieved the goals that everyone else thought we'd set out to, I think that's more of us in life than the people who go on to achieve everything.
Yep.
And the interesting thing is, even the people that go on to achieve everything that everyone wanted them to, they're not happy either, because they often find that they went and won at things that they didn't care about.
Yeah, they lost themselves.
Then they lost themselves. And so I know that this is going to resonate with a lot of people, but as you know, we end every On Purpose episode with a final 5. These questions have to be answered in 1 word to 1 sentence maximum.
Okay.
And so, Nick Kyrgios, these are your final 5. The first question is, what is the best advice you've ever heard or received?
It's never as good as it seems, and it's never as bad as it seems.
Who said that? Where did you learn that?
So Simon, he was one of my tennis coaches, and I feel like that was very tennis specific, because when I was on court, I had the talent to like amaze millions of people, but I always went on court and tried to do that, where he was like, you don't have to do that. These people are paid to come watch you play just because of how you just are. So I always was like, okay, maybe I don't have to try as hard. And then when I was playing bad, I used to think I was playing horrific, but then he was like, you're bad for most people is still amazing, so it's not that bad. And then I started carrying that to everyday life, like when I was having some really bad moments. And everyone thinks when they're going through a struggle, they're like, fuck, this is the worst part of my life. And I'm like, this is not the worst part of your life. It's just going through a bad phase. So that's why I'm never too high anymore with some amazing achievements. Like when finals of Wimbledon, to most people is an amazing achievement, and it is, but I wasn't like, it's like I carry my trophy everywhere with me and I'm like, I may find like, I just, it's an amazing achievement, and it's in the past now. So I think just being able to ride the highs and the lows the same, I think when you're able to do that, you can just navigate through life a little easier. And that's actually the quote above the Wimbledon court, is when you can look at a victory and a loss the same way. That's when you've conquered life a little bit. So I think,
wow.
Yeah, that's like the final thing you see above the court as it's opening up. I'm not sure that's the exact quote, but it's along those lines. So that quote there is very similar to that. It's never as bad as it seems, it's never as good as it seems.
Nice. I love that. Second question, what is the worst advice you've ever heard or received?
It's not that simple. I think about when I've had my success, I've eaten healthy, I've been active, and I've just worked hard. It really is simple for everyone. I think if you just break it down into nice, simple categories, you're going to get the best out of yourself, and you're going to have success, whatever that is. Success is different for everyone, but it's not that simple. The amount of times I heard that in school, from tennis coaches, from everything, it really, if they told me it's simple, like do these things and you'll probably get the best out of yourself. So yeah, it's not that simple. I hated hearing it, because it really was. To get in my position, it is quite simple.
Yeah.
It's hard, but the steps to getting it, it's actually very simple.
Yeah, it's not easy, but it's simple. Yeah. I agree. I would agree. Question number 3, what's something that you've been trying to unlearn?
Oh, that's a hard one, because I've had to unlearn nearly everything that I thought, like, because I meet so many people. I'm not really following your rules of keeping it short, am I?
That's cool, man. It's good. They're good answers.
But a lot. I've met so many people, and I thought that I'd meet a lot of cool people and good, genuine people on the way, but I've been really disappointed. I feel being in our position, it's hard. Every time you meet someone, you don't know if anyone genuinely wants to be your friend or hang out with you or, go to dinner with you because we're good people, or is do you want to just be around us because of, and that's just a common struggle, I think, that I deal with every day. I really do struggle with that, because I'm a genuine person. I only want to hang out with you if I think you're cool and you got a good heart. So I think I thought that a lot of people, I'm trying to unlearn that everyone has good intentions. I felt like everyone should have that and everyone doesn't.
And that's a hard one. That's a really hard one. And I can resonate with that too. I think sometimes it's really interesting, right? Like I feel like sometimes if I get along with someone, or I feel like a natural sense of chemistry with someone, I can come on quite strong, but I'm just being who I am, and I'm okay with that. Like I'll be like to someone, hey, we should hang out or whatever.
I'm exactly like that.
And I like living that way, because to me, that's how I've made some of my best friends. If I wasn't like that,
you're always sheltered. How are you going to experience like the good times?
Totally. And I've opened myself up to that. And sometimes people are like, oh, maybe he has something that he wants. Or like, I'm like, no, not really. That's just who I am. That's how I was raised.
We just feel good.
Yeah, exactly. And so I can relate to that. All right. Question number 4. A rule everyone should break and a rule everyone should follow.
I prefer the follow one, I think.
Go on.
I don't know. I'm going to give that to you. I can't answer
the
it.
rule everyone should break?
Yeah. I actually can't answer it.
I've never asked it before. I just got inspired to ask it to you.
A rule everyone should break.
I'm just trying to think of rules that the world sets that we think everyone should break. And so let me think of a rule. The way I would think about it is, what are rules that we were all told, like even unwritten rules that we all heard since we were young, that now I look at it and I go, we should break that rule.
And you expected me to answer the question, and I
want to give a genuine answer because
I know, but you're so the way you have answers to pretty much everything.
But I like to be thoughtful, because I came up with that question right now just for you. Like it was a moment thing. It wasn't I would say that like an unwritten rule, or like a rule that I think everyone was told to follow, was like, I feel like when you were growing up, you were told to fit in.
Yes.
And then when you get older, you're told to stand out.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, if you want to be successful when you're a kid, fit in.
Yeah.
Wear the uniform, stand in line, do well in school. It's like everyone's told to fit in.
Yeah.
And then as you get older, if you want to win at whatever career path,
you got to be authentic.
You got to be different. You got to be authentic. It's like, wait a minute. And so instead of fitting in or trying to stand out, the rule to break is to say, well, I'm not going to fit in or I'm not going to stand out. I am just going to learn to discover myself.
Yeah.
And I think it's not even about being you. I think that's the cheesy answer of like, just be yourself.
Yep.
I don't think it's about being yourself. I think it's about discovering yourself and getting to know yourself.
Yep.
And so the rule we need to break is stop trying to fit in or stand out. Just get to know yourself. I think
just figure it out.
Yeah, just figure it out is what comes to mind anyway. So
I like it.
Yeah, we'll go with that. You just keep flipping them back onto me. I like it. It's smart. It's a good tactic. It's good PR training.
Yeah, it is.
This is a masterclass in PR training from Nick. Fifth and final question. If you could create one law, we ask this to every guest of all time. If you could create one law that everyone in the world had to follow, what would it be?
Before you criticize someone, you have to do what they do for one day. So like if someone criticizes my tennis game, they need to get on the court and try and play. Or like if I was criticizing someone, then I had to go. I think that should be a law. Before you, if you're willing to criticize, then you're going to be that person for one day and deal with everything that that person deals with.
That is a brilliant answer. I love that. We never had that on the show, and I love that.
Yeah.
That would be amazing if you actually became that person for a day. You had to swap lives.
Yeah.
Anyone you judged or criticized, you had to swap lives with them for one day.
Yeah.
That would be phenomenal.
And it's not like a holiday. It's like a business day.
It's not
like a party, like a Saturday night going out. No, it's like the working day. Yeah. Because then I would think twice.
Yeah.
Like I've criticized basketball players, anyone. I'd be like, oh, you all right. And then it's like, all right, do you want to do the day thing? Oh, actually, no, I'm good. Because I think a lot of people in my position would freak out. I think if I had to go out and play a match in front of the stadiums, then do the press conference, and then deal with the criticism, and they had to feel the realness of it all, they wouldn't want to criticize again.
Yeah. I like that law, man.
Yeah, that's a good law.
It is a good law. It's a good law. Nick Kyrgios, Nick, this has been such a joy and pleasure, man.
Appreciate it.
You totally over-delivered, and for what it's worth, from the moment we started messaging to meeting you today to having this conversation, you're a genuinely nice guy, man.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
And I've enjoyed every minute we've spent together, and I look forward to many more.
Thank you.
Genuinely.
It'll be fun.
Man. Yeah, it's been fun.
Thank you.
Thank you, man.
Of course.
If you love this episode, you'll love my interview with Kobe Bryant on how to be strategic and obsessive to find your purpose.
Our children have become less imaginative about how to problem solve, and parents and coaches have become more directive in trying to tell them how to behave versus teaching them how to behave.